Hi everybody, it's me Jill. Welcome to Jill Informed. This is the recap of The Real Housewives of New Jersey, Season 12, Episode 16, The Reunion Part 3. Well, this is it, you guys. This is last of the last for Season 12. Again, a lot of content, so let's just dive in. We pick up right where we left off with Part 2. Andy has stood up and he is screaming at the ladies, "Shut up! I've got a dinner reservation. I want to move on. I want to go back to Jennifer." Now, you find out about the affair. Was it a one-time only situation? Jennifer. No, it lasted, from what I can tell, for about 2 months. So I asked him, "Do you want a divorce?" And he said, "Absolutely not. I want you to forgive me." So he had to go down to Miami for business, and I followed him down there because I didn't trust him. I had my brother call the hotel. "Hello, I'm Dr. Aiden, and my wife is going to be meeting me there. So please leave a key for her for room 416. Dolores goes, "Oh, good one." Yeah, Dolores thought that was clever. Side note, I thought she told no one. Remember, that was part of why we were so sympathetic, because she had no outlet for how she was feeling at the time. She just stuffed it all inside, didn't tell her sisters, didn't tell her mother, didn't tell anyone. How did she explain to her brother that she wanted him to impersonate Bill? Something's not adding up. Anyway, Jennifer said, so I showed up in his room, and he was so turned on by that it reignited some heat between us. Just like the cowboy hats. I told you, these two are into some role-playing. So Jennifer said then, they left that trip. They were stronger than ever, and she had decided to forgive him and never speak about it again. She said she never thought about it for 10 years. Until Margaret came along. She did also say that having it come out has provided her with some closure. She's like, "I know Bill seemed like checked out on camera, but really it's just he doesn't know how to be as forthright as I am." Margaret, listen, I'm not going to say that you weren't hurt to the core. You were, but I didn't believe it at first because you made out like your life was perfect. You were very villainous for years. Jennifer goes, "It is perfect and amazing." Margaret goes, "No, because if it was amazing, you wouldn't have crumbled like that." Melissa, of all people, kind of gets down to the root of it all by getting Jennifer to admit that Jennifer, as a woman, is happy that Bill's affair was made public because it is causing Bill to have to take accountability for it, probably for the first time, really. So in that sense, Jennifer was almost relieved. But as a mother, she said she was very worried about this being public, which, I mean, I can understand that. Margaret admits again that if she knew that exposing the affair was going to cut Jennifer to the core, she never would have done it. And she feels very sorry that her children were hurt. I think that might be the first time Margaret says that, right? Because didn't she say children are resilient, they'll get over it, they'll go to therapy or something? So this is the first time there was just a flat out, "I'm sorry that it hurt your children." Andy says to her, "Are you still mad at Margaret for revealing the affair?" "No, not anymore, Andy." He goes, "Really? Do you think you two could be friends?" Jennifer says, "I don't want to ever say never, but, trust comes with time." Margaret goes, "I really thought we made up. Our lunch together was beyond heartfelt to me." Then we see a flashback to that. Margaret said afterwards that she called Jennifer and gave her the number to her therapist, and, she was still worried about it. Teresa is rolling her eyeballs out of her head at this point. Jennifer admits, yes, she did. It's hard reliving it and watching it over again, Andy. Jennifer says she sees similarities between her and Margaret, the way they are as daughters to their own mothers. They love their mothers very much, yet their mothers can kind of drive them crazy a little bit. She said their mothers' backstories are similar. Then we see another flashback to Marge Sr. when she was a little girl and her family was fleeing Hungary. Andy asks Margaret about, the war in Ukraine right now as, it pertains to her mother. And she said, yes, my mother is experiencing PTSD right now. Margaret explains the similarities of that. She said her grandparents had caught wind of a big uprising coming, that Russia was coming back into Hungary. Marge Sr. also had a much older brother who was actually married at the time, and his wife did not want to leave her family. So her brother stayed behind, and little Marge Sr. and her mom and dad fled. And she's getting very emotional. She's like, my grandmother had to make a choice to leave her son. But her grandfather was like, we got to go. So they did. Her brother was fine, but they weren't able to go back for many, many years. But they did eventually see him again. Then Andy after that sort of heavy stuff, Andy awkwardly shifts to, Marge Sr. looks great for 75. Is she dating anyone? Okay. I don't know, it was a rough segue. Margaret goes, not right now. She's so youthful. Unfortunately, 75-year-old men want 55-year-old women. Andy goes, I could see a little something between Frank Catania and Marge Sr. And everybody laughs. And Dolores goes, oh, Frank loves her. Okay, back from the break, we are joined by the husbands. We start with Frank. Side note, if things get very serious with Paulie, how's that going to work with Frank Sr., Because it was perfect with David. David never wanted to be on camera. David would never have come to the reunion. So Dolores always has Frank to go to parties with or to film with. But what if Paulie, becomes a bro? It's just funny, where does that leave Frank? Honestly, Frank is all the husbands are such a real part of this show that I feel like Frank and his new girlfriend could be on. She'd have to be a friend of, but I think Frank has house husband status, Anyway, we start with Frank, and Andy said, this was the first time you were living with the kids in their whole life, right? And he goes, not since they were babies. And Andy goes, yeah, it must be different from the time you were changing diapers. And he goes, I remember getting up in the middle of the night, changing diapers. Dolores is in front of him going, Andy, Dolores, did he ever? And she goes, no. Everybody laughs. Andy goes, Frank, it's wild to me that you're living with David now. And he asks about David's girlfriend. Apparently, Frank has not only met Louie's ex, who is now David's current, but I guess they hang out, watch TV together on the couch in the evening. Then Andy moves to Joe B. And he says, you look fantastic. Joe B said, thank you. After 4 years of my wife talking me into going under the knife, I finally got my bags removed. So the under the eye fat, the eye bags, he had surgically removed. That is a surgery I feel like I could get behind. That would be nice. Okay, so Andy moves on to Evan. And side note, just a heads up, that is the last time we ever speak to Joby. He literally came on stage, sat behind Margaret, talked about his eye bag removal, and we never hear from him again. So like I said, Andy moves on to Evan, and he said, what do you think of Jackie's progress with her eating disorder? And he said, I think it's great. It's the most sustained effort that I've seen in a long, long time. Then he said he feels a bit guilty because he's been with her for 18 and a half years. I didn't quite understand, but I think he feels like he didn't do enough or maybe didn't push her enough to get help. But, you can't dwell on that. She's getting the help now, so, Then we move on to Bill. Andy said, Bill, I know it's been a tough season, but how are you and Jennifer doing now? And Bill goes, I think better, but it's a process, obviously. And reliving it now, it's still an ongoing issue. Andy moves to Louie. Louie, congrats on your engagement. How did you enjoy your first season on the show? Loved it, Andy. Loved every minute. Louie. It was horrible. No fault of anyone in this room. Teresa. Really? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, you're not. Louie goes, I just felt really judged without having a chance to tell my story. Dude, you didn't have a chance to tell your story because of Teresa. That's all anybody wanted was to hear your story. And he goes, it seems like when you were asked direct questions, you weren't shy about answering. Louie, no. Okay, maybe not, but he didn't answer truthfully, like about that video. Andy, so do you regret not getting in there more? And Louie goes, I do. I regret that first night I filmed with everybody at the shore. You know, I was nervous and, you know, Teresa's amazing. Oh, sure. I think we can all agree Teresa's amazing and bashful. But he goes, but you know, she could be a little overwhelming and like telling me to be quiet and not letting me answer. It made it look like she was covering for something, but really she's just being protective. Then we get a montage of the bros. Andy asks Louie, have you ever met a group of guys that drink this much? Louie, no. Joe Gorga takes us down. They all laugh. Andy says, Joe, you call these guys the Wolf Pack. How did you get to be this close? Cue the tender music. Teresa, is that one of your buttons? Joe, the vibe and the bond is there. We don't have to work on it. It just happens. Oh. Bro, that is beautiful. It's effortless. Bill's like, speak for yourself. I work very hard at becoming a bro. Viewer question. Why is Joe Gorga so fixated on Frank's balls? Only Jersey. Is this like a valid viewer question? Joe. Because he doesn't have any. I never seen a guy like that. So yeah, I wasn't fixated. Andy goes, why doesn't he have any balls? And Joe goes, he's done so many steroids, they're gone. And Andy goes, okay. I thought that's what you were getting at. Andy goes, so Frank, you're living with David. Does he ever ask about Dolores? Frank, he's inquired about her well-being, but he doesn't get into anything personal. David was hurt by the breakup, but you know, he's not one to talk about his feelings. Yeah, and therein lies the problem. So Andy goes, what do you think about Dolores' new guy, Paulie? Frank, he looks like Buzz Lightyear. Dolores? No. You son of a bitch. And Frank's like, what are you talking about? Teresa's laughing. Other people are laughing too. And Dolores goes, you're a fucking jerk off. Frank's like, I'm not making fun. Andy goes, you don't like that, Dolores? I mean, Buzz Lightyear is a superhero. And Dolores goes, I know. And then Frank goes, listen, me and Paulie don't exactly see eye to eye. And Andy goes, oh, why? Because Paulie doesn't understand me and Dolores' relationship. And Andy goes, well, with all due, it would take a special person. You can't live with all Dolores' exes. But here's the thing. I guess it would have to take a special person, he's right, or a person that's not that into Dolores. So Frank goes, you're right, I get defensive of our relationship. So I made the effort and I asked Paulie, would you like to go out to dinner and we can talk? And that never happened. I also get that. He's dating Dolores. Does he have to go out to dinner with her ex-husband? Dolores is like, give it some time, Frank. Let us be secure in our relationship first. So he feels secure meeting you. We're a lot to handle. Frank goes, that's fine. I just expected more from him, you know, because he's a superhero. Okay. Andy gave you that line. Viewer question for Louie. Louie, I love how you brought the Judices and the Gorgas together. Where did you learn to be such a great communicator? Louie. Over the years, just doing the work, you know, communicating. Communication is key. Andy goes, talk to me about integrating Teresa into your style of communication. Yeah, good question. Louie, she was extremely open to the clicker training. She's very easy to talk to. Very receptive to positive reinforcement with small treats. Andy goes, well, that's very interesting because for me over the years, it's been like pulling teeth getting her to Louie. But she does tune out. Marge, you said this is the season of Teresa tuning out, but you have to reel her back in, that's all. Apparently she's not off leash yet. But I mean, you know, it takes time, people. Andy. Okay, so when you were asked to explain the video, you claim it was a breakup video when actually you proposed in that video. So what was it? Thank you, Andy. Louie, I was in a toxic relationship. Oh my God, stop. Does every sentence have to start with you were in a toxic relationship? That's the reason for everything, guys. Anyway, Louis was in this toxic relationship and his business partner was going on a retreat. So Louis said, great, let's go. We weren't naked on the beach. We were wearing gym shorts because they kept sending us in and out of the ocean. They made the men set intentions to their wives, and I'm a single guy, so I just made the intention to the girl I was dating. I was trying to break up with her, but I didn't have the guts to do it. So when I got there, they made me commit to her. Andy goes, so when you came home, you broke up with her? Louis goes, I came home and she wanted me to sign a prenup for her to get $1 million. Andy goes, and that didn't go. And Louis goes, no. Joe Gorga. That's how you explain the video, Margaret. And I just want to say, even though Teresa doesn't believe me, and she and I have different styles of trying to get ahead of things, I was trying to help you flip public opinion because I didn't want you to look bad. This is a clear explanation. And Andy goes, but also I think the explanation of what he was doing on the beach, all these guys shirtless, it was weird. And Margaret's like, public opinion wasn't good. Unfortunately, it didn't get flipped. Teresa, then right away, if you were a good person, you would have called me that night at Jennifer's and said he didn't explain it right. Yeah, Andy goes, I don't think you would have been receptive that night. Thank you, Andy. That's ridiculous. Just like, if you called him a bitch boy, she'd be like, that's fine. Teresa, you have to know you don't ever react calmly to anything. Melissa backed Margaret by saying, look, I know Margaret can get into people's business, but she would have helped you. Louis said that Teresa didn't tell him to deny anything, but she did repeatedly say, button number 2, you don't owe anybody an explanation. Louis goes, I kept saying to her, you have to let me speak. Now Andy says, Louis, you seem to have dated a lot of women who have unkind things to say about you. There's road rage incidents, you demand sex all the time, you're emotionally abusive, you slashed a girlfriend's tires, your family doesn't like you, physically abusive in front of children. Is any of it true? Were you emotionally abusive to your girlfriends? Louis, button number 1 on Louis. We were in toxic relationships. There you go. Louis only needs the one button because toxic relationship is just sort of the catch-all answer for everything. To be fair, though, I mean, he is answering the questions. These answers are a little different than we got on the show. So, I'm going to give him that. So anyway, Louis goes on to say, these were toxic relationships and basically we were verbally or whatever, emotionally abusive to each other. So I wouldn't label it that way. Andy, do you demand sex 4 times a day? Louis, no, I can't have sex 4 times a day. Right, Teresa? And she's like, I would. Does Teresa have flippers in? Do you guys know what those are? Okay, show of hands, who has ever watched Toddlers and Tiaras? For those of you who haven't, I hope it's most of you, actually. When little girls are in beauty pageants and they have lost teeth, because, children do that, they get these flippers, which are like fake teeth that are put in so that they have, like that perfect smile. Teresa's teeth look like crazy, even and white and almost like they're one piece, like a cartoon mouth. Anyway, she goes, I would. Yeah, we know. Andy's not done yet, though. Louis, is there a domestic violence record against you? 2 incidents have come up recently, and those were arguments with my ex-wife over the children when we were getting divorced. If I'm the only guy in America that basically had arguments with his wife and she walks in the house and calls the police, that's the extent of it. Stop. Stop normalizing a wife calling the police on her husband as if it's no big deal. I don't know what world you live in where that's common, but to deflect from what you've done by saying, oh, come on, I can't be the only guy. Am I right, bros? It needs to stop. Anyway, Andy goes, did you hit her? And he said, no. Teresa also immediately, no. Like, can we just leave it to someone who was actually there at the time, Teresa? Not what he told you. Side note, is Bravo doing this on purpose in editing? Because there are very long pauses before Louie answers any question. So Andy goes, you see all these articles out there because there are a lot of them. What's your response to that? I have no response. It's really painful. Teresa, it's sad. It's not fair for people to leave relationships and do that to somebody else because they're on a platform with Teresa Giudice. Have I been a perfect person? No. Yeah, you don't know what we've been through this past year. And she doesn't know. Margaret, I don't want anything bad for you. Louie, thank you, Margaret. Margaret, that's what upsets me because I know everything you've been through. Why wouldn't I want you happy? And Andy goes, when you listen to her motives now, what did you think her motives were? Louie, I completely agree with everything you're saying. When you connect the dots in the story, it makes a lot of sense. Well, could you explain it to Teresa? Andy says to her, did you hear what he just said? Yeah. Well, what do you think about it? He's a nice guy. And he's very forgiving. Me? Not so much. Margaret, well, maybe you could take some lessons. Margaret, she's in training. She is taking lessons. Andy goes, all right, we're on a Teresa go-round right now. I mean, I love the ride, but it's going around in circles. Shifting gears, he asks about the upcoming wedding, and Louie would like to go to the courthouse and then rent out a diner. Teresa, yeah, 'cause he loves Sex in the City. It's his favorite show. Oh no. There's no way that is being sanctioned by the bros. You cannot have a member of the wolf pack choose Sex in the City as their favorite TV show. I'm sure that just breaks all the bro codes. Louie says he's so happy to have met someone like Teresa. So he's learned nothing from his past toxic relationships. And he says he does want to do the whole Sex in the City thing. Married at the courthouse, rent out the diner, just not be so extra. And Andy goes, you're marrying kind of an extra gal. I mean, look at her now. She's dressed like a disco ball. Mirror, mirror on the wall. No, Teresa, don't push that button. You've done that one already. Isn't it time for the Margaret has called the ex-girlfriends? I haven't heard that one in almost 20 minutes. We talk about Jackie's eating disorder again. Evan said it's great that they finally are really addressing it on the show because it's really holding Jackie accountable this time. Andy asks Bill, how have your kids reacted to learning about the affair? Bill, well, it was hard, obviously. The older ones were disappointed, and the younger ones, you know, their first question is, are my parents getting divorced? Then he says, when it first happened, Jennifer told my mom. I don't think my dad knew, and obviously it's different now that the whole world knows. Whole world. Rest assured, my husband doesn't know. He may have a vague idea of who you are, but I promise you he couldn't pick you out of a lineup. He may, however, know that you're a vampire. I'm just saying, I may have mentioned it. Sorry. Andy asked about them keeping it a secret, and Bill said, in hindsight, the truth always sets you free. Before I go any further, can I just point out that Bill said when it first happened, Jennifer told his mom? I'm having less and less sympathy. No, I do. Listen, I still have sympathy. But, I mean, it just cut me to the core. No. I really kind of ached for her when I thought she's 100% alone and can't tell a single soul about it. But it sounds to me like she told her brother, she told Bill's mom. You know, she kind of exacted a little revenge at the beginning there. Anyway, Bill said it's easier to deal with rather than continue lying about it. He said at first he was angry with Margaret, but he was more angry at himself. If I had never done the act, none of this would have happened. Thank you, Bill. Yes. That is a beautiful statement of accountability. Love the ownership. Margaret, I just want to say that to me, it was about the hypocrisy, not about Bill. I hope you know I didn't want to put you in that vulnerable position. I had no idea it was going to blow up like this. I mean, at the time, I don't think you were so concerned about Bill, but okay. Jennifer, my kids were collateral damage. You do know that, right? Margaret, Jennifer, we went over that in our makeup like 1,000 times already. Jennifer, I just wanted you to say it to Bill now that he's here. He hasn't heard it before. No, we don't need to make a big declaration to Bill, the cheater. Stop being crazy, ladies. She apologized about the kids to you, Jennifer. You are the wronged victim here. She doesn't need another apology to Bill. If Bill was concerned about his children, he wouldn't have put his dick in somebody else. Honestly, I don't even think he deserved the other apology. Anyway, she does it. She apologizes to Bill about the children, and Jennifer thanked her. Bill didn't say a word. Next, we talk about Bill and Joe Gorga and how Joe wanted Bill to step up after his wife called him a little bitch girl. And Jennifer goes, excuse me, but to think that he's going to choose you, Joe, over me and yell at me for you is like, I don't know what you're thinking with that one. And Joe goes, not that night, but you know, maybe the next day, a phone call. Then Joe Gorga bro-splains it to all of us. Sometimes the wives get a little emotional and the bros are a little more stable up here. Andy visibly cringes. Yeah. So the bros are funny too. Jen's like, all of them were ganging up on me. You too, Joe. And Joe goes, yeah, I know, because I'm such a little bitch. And Andy says to Jennifer, by the way, on the show, Bill said he thought you were out of line. Bill, I have never seen a vampire look panicky, but this is the first. This is definitely a first. He's like, about throwing them out of the house? Jennifer, excuse me? Did you say that? Did you say that I'm out of line for throwing them out of the house? Then we get a flashback.
My wife is out of place with that, but a lot of stuff happened that night leading up to it.
Now, I actually thought Bill was referring to the little bitch girl, that he thought that was Jennifer being out of line and not the throwing out of the house, but I guess I could be wrong. Now Jennifer explains it away by basically saying, well, you know, Bill does that, kind of a, you know, go along to get along kind of a thing. And he says to Bill, if Melissa called you a little bitch boy, what would your reaction be? Melissa goes, I would never. And Jennifer goes, nothing. Bill, I would be upset. Frank, I guess the question's put to Frank, and Frank said, I would never get into anything with Melissa. Yeah, he would handle it with Joe later, like a bro. Honestly, the fact that these bros think that they are like a picture of stability up here it's kind of hilarious. Joe's like, I didn't get into it with you, Jennifer. Jennifer, you yelled at me. Melissa goes, you antagonize, honey. Well, surprise, surprise, Andy doesn't want to relitigate it. You know, someone really needs to tell Andy that's what the whole reunion is. It's kind of relitigating the season. Anyway, Andy just wants to make sure that the bros are still in love with each other. Joe, yeah, I love Bill. Well, great. I compliment him on that scruff. I love that scruff. He looks great. Bill, look, we went to dinner after that incident. We cleared the air. Really? I'm seeing this picture, but I would not believe that Jennifer and Melissa would agree to a double date. Okay. Now Jennifer goes after Evan. Listen, Evan, I didn't appreciate the accomplice comment to Bill. We see the flashback.
Jen got dirty.
That is not a good first. Okay, then I'm done.
Yeah. No, go. Get lost.
Evan?
I don't give a shit. He's an accomplice. His wife dug on me.
allows that to happen, that doesn't work with me.
I'm not sure what Jennifer's point is. She says, we're married. I tell him everything, and he tells me everything. Well, maybe not everything. Margaret goes, that's how our marriage works, too. Maybe next time, if he tells you something Frank said, just keep it between the two of you. Jennifer says, I never thought in a million years he would come on the show and throw me under the bus. Frank's like, how did I throw you under the bus? We see the flashback where Margaret asks Frank about, did you know the girl who Evan supposedly had an affair with? No. At the gym. Frank responds by saying, supposedly I have pictures. I don't even think Evan did anything. So now Frank is like, how did I throw you under the bus? Jennifer, you brought it to the show. Dolores turns to Frank and says, this thinks that I told you to say that. Jennifer, don't call me a see you next Tuesday. I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. Dolores, Frank, answer her. Frank goes, let me get one thing straight. Dolores has never told me to say something or not say something, ever. Jennifer goes, okay, but you did bring up something about a girl. Everyone on the other couch is like, oh my God, again? Jennifer, no, I need closure. So do I guess, because I would like to know. Either Frank or Bill were lying, and I kind of want to know the story. I'll allow it. You may answer, Frank. I'll relitigate it. So now Jennifer's getting upset at Bill, who's remaining quiet about this. She goes, just say I didn't come to you out of the blue with this. Something was said. Bill, please clear the air. I love when she goes from sweet to street. That's my favorite part of Jen. Bill, say something. Well, we went to dinner, Frank and I. Frank told me the alleged woman between Evan. He said, so you know what this girl looks like or something. I went home and I said, well, Frank knows this alleged person. Jackie, it's unbelievable. With all the real stuff that's going on, that this is an actual story. Jennifer, Frank brought it to the show. It would have ended right there. I need to be vindicated, Andy. I am the last person that would care. Margaret cackles. Evan agrees that perhaps any husband would have had their wives back the way Bill did. But regardless of that, he does want to apologize for not being a better friend to Bill because he was going through a lot. Okay, Evan. So for that, I'm sorry, bro. But I've never done anything to you, have I, Jen? Digging on me is like not something I would do. Jennifer, it was just conversation. It's a coincidence that the two people that I talked to about it ratted me out. Andy, well, the good news is that the bros are all in a good place and love each other, and I'm going to send you all off. Oh. Not so fast, Andy. These are New Jersey bros. They'll tell you when their segment is over. Joe Gorga, can I just say something? I want to thank the men. Teresa, button 4. Sorry, but you are a little bitch boy, Joe. No, button 4, Teresa. I want to thank all the cheaters, the disbarred attorneys, the abusers. Oh, yeah, that one's funny. The bitch boys defending their wives. Louie, you talked a lot tonight. I respect that. You keep doing that. You got it? Teresa, no, I really don't want him to do that. Joe's like, keep doing it, Louie. Don't listen to her. And Margaret goes, I'd rather have him than her. Teresa, I'd rather have him than you too. No, you ruined your night. Louie, can I say one thing? Sure. Why not? We've gone way over time now. I'm sure the restaurant has released Andy's reservations, so have at it, Louie. So he goes, so Teresa doesn't want me to say this? Go on. But they've let me go from my company, from all the negative stuff that came out in the press and because of my exes out there. And thank you, Andy. If I didn't say before, I will thank you for this one question because he asked the question that immediately came to my mind. You got let go from the company that you started? Right. Louie, yeah. They called me up and said, you have to step down. This is like a WeWork thing. One of you in the comments said that you watched all the same documentaries as me. Did you watch We Crashed? Well, first of all, I'm a child of my so-called life, so I will watch anything that Jared Leto is in. Anyway, that's another good docudrama, or whatever they call it. I think it was on Apple TV, if you guys get that. Anywho, Louie's company asked him to step down, and he goes, yeah, it really sucked. So I don't have any bad feelings toward anyone here. I just want to move forward in a really peaceful manner. Teresa. Now I'm upset. Louie goes, why? Teresa, why? Because of what you just said. Because I've been living it, and that's what you didn't know. She's pointing at Margaret. What you fucking did. Andy, are you blaming Margaret for this? Yeah. Margaret, that is so sick. Andy, hold on. Louie, do you blame Margaret for this? He shakes his head. Teresa, who hasn't stopped talking through the whole thing. Karma's a fucking bitch. Andy's like, hold on, Louie. Now Margaret's talking. Andy, hold on. He gets so mad. So after Andy's head explodes, he asks again, Louie, do you blame Margaret? And Louie said, no. Everybody's just doing their job, talking about what's been put out there. Just in the future, let's try to communicate if we can, because I don't want drama in my life. Oh, sweetie, have you met your fiance? I mean, it's so clear that like Louie gets it. He gets how this works on the TV show. Not mad at Margaret. He understands it's her job. She needs to talk about what's out there already. He doesn't think that she waged this whole campaign against him, tracked down the exes, got them to talk on record, he gets it. Teresa, not so much. Still in training. Margaret, I'm so sorry you lost your job. This brings out a lot of negativity. Teresa, thanks to you. Margaret, Teresa, shut the fuck up now. I don't want anything bad to happen to anyone's career. Side note, neither do I, but can I just confess what my first very uncharitable thought was? Well, second, actually, because the first was what Andy said. You got fired from the company that you started. I thought it was your company. You hired on Frankie Jr. So I thought, oh, so I guess maybe Teresa does have to work now. Yeah, you never have to work again. Except maybe if I get fired from my job. Unfortunate timing since you guys just bought a 50,000 square foot home, which I only know because you told the whole restaurant how big your stupid house was. And my third thought, Teresa, you're right. Karma is a bitch. Anyway, Teresa is mumbling about how she can't stand Margaret. So now the men really do leave, and as they're going, they're kissing their wives goodbye, shaking hands with each other. Louie whispers in Teresa's ear, if you love me, calm down. Teresa, okay. Promise? Yeah. Louie is now shaking Joby's hand. Remember I told you, Joby will never say another word. Eye bags, you're done. Teresa, babe, why you even shaking his hand? Louie, because I'm a gentleman. And Joe's a bro. Louie's only abusive to women. Allegedly. Now he's shaking Bill's hand, but he's looking over at Teresa and he's like, Teresa, you gotta stop, baby. Teresa, he's disgusting. Louie, oh my God. Yeah, you thought she'd be easy to train? She's been in the pound for a long time. She's got a lot of things to unlearn from the last owner. Even Jennifer, who's pretty much had Teresa's back the entire night, said, he's just trying to move forward. Louie comes around, whispers in her ear again, you're really making a mistake by the way you're behaving. Teresa, no. Should I do it? Should I do a Teresa ASMR? No, you ruined your night. Margaret, you called the exes Margaret. Sorry, but you are a little bitch boy. Was that good? Maybe I should start an ASMR channel. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Listen, Louie, I don't know what to say to you, pal. If history has taught you anything, it's that you don't have great taste in women. So, good luck. Louie's just like, okay, pats her on the back. Teresa's like, no, because after what your husband said about him on the show. Margaret, Teresa, nobody wants anything bad for Louie. Now Louie goes over and gives Margaret a kiss on the cheek. Margaret, Louie, I know you're working hard on yourself, and you've done an amazing job. I really only want good things for you. Okay, so it is just the women on stage now. Andy. Teresa, Margaret joked that she won't be invited to your wedding. Is that correct? Teresa, correct. Margaret, that's okay, I'll send a gift. Teresa, no. Andy, you called Margaret a see you next Tuesday and threw plates on her. Do you feel like you owe her an apology? Teresa, I did already. We flash back to the apology that she made to the group in Nashville. The one she specifically said wasn't for Margaret. Andy asked if her flipping the table turned on Louie the way it turned on Joe Giudice, and the inventor of a massager for your ass. Teresa, he never seen that before. And Andy goes, yeah, well, most people haven't. Teresa says that she tried to stay calm all season. Wow. Jesus, that was her trying? But she hit her breaking point because Margaret was putting stuff out there and coming after her boyfriend. So there you have it, guys. Nothing that was said, nothing that Louie said, nothing that Margaret or anybody, Andy, nothing that anyone said has gotten through to Teresa. Margaret's like, oh, I wasn't putting stuff out there. How was I coming after him? Because I asked a question? Teresa, yeah. Andy, rationally says, if my best friend was dating someone new and all of these articles came out about them, I'd be like, hey, I'm worried about you. And Teresa goes, she's not a best friend. That's the thing. Andy goes, if Dolores did it, Teresa, Dolores didn't do it because she knows. And Andy goes, well, Dolores lives by the Italian code. She never asked you about jail either. Teresa, she's the one that brought it to light. Again, like pointing at Margaret. Andy goes, it was light already. Then to Margaret, he goes, are you speaking to his ex-girlfriends? Margaret, oh my God, no. This woman has my hair pulled. I didn't pull your hair, Danielle did. Andy, and you said do it, do it. Do it, do it, do it. Side note, I'm so glad that Andy agreed to relitigate this. Teresa goes, oh, she asked me. Andy goes, and you said do it. God. Oh, man. Anyway, Margaret goes on and gives a laundry list of things that Teresa has done to her. And Margaret said, and still, I defended her. Teresa, because I'm a good person. After that long list of things that she's done to her, she still knows that she's a good person. Margaret, I think you're a psycho now. Then Teresa pushed button 6 and they started fighting back and forth. Andy ends up asking Teresa, do you ever change your opinion about something? Like, have you ever had an opinion and then said, you know what, I really thought about that and I'm seeing it in a different way now? Teresa, yeah. Jennifer, of course, backs that up. Yes, Andy, I've seen her change her opinion. Back from the break, Andy apologizes for losing his temper so much. He says, that's not like me. He thinks when he's with them, he turns into a Jersey girl. He said, there's also been a lot of positive moments this season. I would like everyone to go around and say something positive that they're going to come away from the season with. Andy goes, Jackie, yours was most obvious, I guess. He said, I honestly think the show saved my life. Dolores says hers was the charity softball game. No matter how much we fight, Andy, I wouldn't share these couches with anybody else. Jennifer, am I still a Dolores laughs. They both laugh, so I don't know, man. I think they might still be friends. Andy goes, what about you, Margaret? I think for me, it was being able to celebrate Marge Sr.'s birthday and the moment with you, Jennifer. It was very heartfelt for me. Andy, Jennifer? I want to work harder on evolving as a person. I want to learn and grow from my mistakes. And more importantly, to own up to my mistakes. That was a very Miss America pageant response, wasn't it? Andy, Melissa? For me, it was having a fully recovered Antonia. You know, she's in tumbling now. I'm so happy as a mom that I pushed her. Okay. In other words, I didn't have a storyline. I didn't directly fight with anyone. The only fight I had was my leftover fight with Jennifer from last year. But this year, I contributed my teenager's struggle with moving. So I feel like Tracy would have had more to say. And I'm really sorry they didn't ask her to be here. Even if she was in a chair off to the side, like Danielle that one year. Or was it Kim D? Or both? I don't know. I think she should have come. Andy, and what about you, Teresa? It was a hard season, Andy. I'm the happiest I've ever been. Oh, yeah, you look it. You're glowing right now. I found the love of my life. And what he did for our 1-year anniversary, I felt like a princess. Oh, lucky us. We get another glimpse at the scroll. I mean, listen, that's what we all learned about Teresa's bashfulness. She says she feels bad for what Louie went through. And we both went through it together. Okay, so she feels bad for herself. And she was really upset with herself for what she said to Margaret. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Is she gonna finally apologize? Oh, yeah, don't get excited. She's mad at herself for doing that because she allowed Margaret to get to her. She didn't want to lose her temper. She didn't want to let Margaret get her riled up, but she did. So that's what she's sorry about. So now they all stand for a champagne toast, and Dolores leads the toast by saying, cheers to health and happiness for everyone, and to friendship and making amends. And Jackie downs hers, and everyone's like, whoa, Jackie. And she's like, I'm eating now. And everyone laughs. The end. Oh, this is going to be another long one. Anyway, that is it. All in all, I would have to say it was an interesting year. There was a lot going on. It was interesting to have Louie on camera and all the stuff coming out. I don't know, man. You know, when there's smoke, there's fire. There's a lot of smoke. A lot of smoke. I don't know. He just looks like a big, giant red flag to me. And I'm not talking about his complexion. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you guys for coming on this journey with me with the New Jersey Housewives. We're just getting into Beverly Hills. We're only a couple episodes in, so if you haven't started watching that, there's plenty of time to catch up, and I will still be seeing you over there. If you liked these recaps, please subscribe to my channel. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I will see you next time. Bye.